Pride blinded him. Rebellion condemned him. From the highest heavens, Lucifer was torn from the light and cast into the abyss. His fall not only shattered his form, but his essence. He was no longer the shining angel, but the shadow of his own arrogance. In the fire and darkness, his new name echoed with an eternal resonance: Satan. How could a being so full of light fall so low? What happened for the angel closest to God to transform into the embodiment of evil? Lucifer's story before his fall was marked by perfection. The creator of harmony, a being whose brilliance rivaled the stars themselves. But what led him to challenge even the creator? Unchecked ambition, disdain for his own perfection. In his fall, the abyss was not only his prison, but the crucible where something much darker, more dangerous was forged. From the heavens that once adored him to the darkness that now fears him. How did that once venerated being transform into the creature now symbolizing chaos? What happened to Lucifer that left no trace of his former glory? And here begins a new story, the story of Satan, the being who challenged the perfection of the universe and in his defiance found a power beyond what he could have ever imagined, a power that made him more than a fallen angel. It turned him into an immortal being, master of chaos and darkness, a leader for those who, like him, rejected the chains of order. But what happens when someone, after losing everything, discovers that in the darkness, they can become stronger than ever? Over time, Satan forged a kingdom in the depths, where the echoes of heaven no longer reached. But what happens when someone so powerful is forced to rule a kingdom that, in its origin, was conceived as a place of punishment? In the bowels of hell, surrounded by fire and damnation, a new form of power began to grow. Satan not only became the sovereign of suffering, but he learned to manipulate it, to transform it into a force as powerful as his own hatred. Was this his punishment or his rebirth? In the darkness, he found forces that even his arrogance could not have anticipated. He was no longer an angel. He was no longer a being who obeyed. Now, he was the very antithesis of creation. The rebellion not only granted him his freedom, but armed him with the greatest of powers: control over chaos, over what has been lost and what should never be. And who followed him? Those who, like him, desired freedom from order, freedom from imposed rules. Those who chose to walk the dark side, abandoning the light of their creator. Now, Satan was not only the leader of a kingdom, but the leader of a new reality, where the law of the strongest was the only one that mattered. The fire that had consumed him, instead of destroying him, made him greater, more dangerous, and above all, more cunning. With each step, the legend grew. He was no longer just an enemy, no longer just a monster. Satan became the very image of rebellion, a symbol of eternal defiance to everything that was ever considered sacred. And in his mind, the question persisted: why should there be anything greater than him? Why should he not become the absolute ruler of the universe? Over the centuries, Satan understood something fundamental. The fall was not his end, but his rise. And as his power grew in the abyss, one conviction began to dominate his being: he deserved more. More than heaven, more than the creator, more than any other creature. In his mind, the injustice was palpable. The universe, with all its order and light, had turned its back on him. He had given everything for creation. But in the end, what had he received in return? Contempt, condemnation. Darkness embraced him, but it was a darkness he had chosen for himself. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations! Isaiah 14:12. This verse describes how Lucifer, the angel of light, was cast down, a reminder that his fall was not an accident, but the result of his own desire to be more than the Creator. And so, in his new realm, Satan's figure was no longer that of the fallen angel, but that of the absolute leader, the sovereign of an empire made of suffering and chaos. But despite his power, there was something that never left him. I deserve more. This feeling, which had once been a spark of pride, had now become an eternal flame consuming his soul. I will ascend to heaven. Above the stars of God, I will set my throne, and I will sit on the mount of the congregation on the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. Isaiah 14:13-14. Satan's pride led him to believe that he deserved the same place as the Creator, a longing for absolute power. Creation had forgotten him, but he had not forgotten creation. What if the Creator was wrong? What if it was he who had the right to rule? And so, the rebellion continued, not just against the Creator, but against everything that had once been his being. For deep within himself, Satan understood something painful but true. The fall did not make him stronger. It only made him hungrier for what he felt he deserved. And the price for that thirst for power would never stop being paid. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Matthew 16:26. Satan, like many who fall into unchecked ambition, began to pay the price for his thirst for power. His hunger for more was never satisfied, and the more he tried, the more he was lost. The emptiness in his soul was never filled, no matter how much the abyss offered him all the power in the universe. Every victory, every act of destruction was only a reminder of what he truly longed for. The crown of heaven was no longer enough. His ambition had evolved. His vision had expanded. He no longer simply wished to rule hell. He desired to drag everything that existed down with him. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. In seeking the destruction of all that existed, Satan became the opposite of Christ, who came to bring life. The pursuit of power and destruction only left him empty. What was the world, heaven, creation itself, if not a reflection of his own greatness? Why settle for darkness when I could have the light at my feet, he thought. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. Above the stars of God, I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the Mount of Assembly, on the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Isaiah 14:13-14. Satan, comparing light with darkness, still longed for a higher place, as shown in his desire to make himself equal to God. His hatred for the Creator grew. The rage he felt was as deep as the abyss he inhabited. For in his mind, the fall was not a punishment, but a wasted opportunity. Creation had made a fatal mistake by rejecting his supremacy. I deserve more. I deserve to be the center of the universe. If God is the creator, then I must be the destroyer. And that is what I will be. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Matthew 23:12. Satan, in raising his ego beyond his place, forgets that true power comes from humility, not rebellion. But as his power increased, so did his inner torment. Loneliness enveloped him like a cloak, denser than any fire that could consume him. Being the Lord of the abyss, the Prince of Darkness, was not enough. His ego was trapped in an endless spiral, a spiral of frustration that drove him to seek something he himself did not understand. The total destruction of all that had condemned him. And the darkness will not overcome it, nor will the fire consume it, for God is light. 1 John 1:5. Satan's internal struggle reflects his disconnection from true light, a light he can never reach in his selfishness. Is this truly what I want? He silently asked himself. What does it mean to gain the world if I still have no peace within me? The internal battle never ceased, but his ego told him he had to press on. Doubt was never an option because deep down, he knew his struggle was greater than the fall itself. The struggle was for recognition, for power that would justify his pain. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Matthew 16:26. Satan, in his insatiable pursuit of power, loses what is most important, his soul, for peace can only be found in reconciliation with the Creator. In the distance, from the depths of his dark kingdom, legions of demons gathered around him. Satan, the former angel of light, had been replaced by a sinister being, a king of despair. But there was still something within him that could not be destroyed, the unshakable belief that he deserved more. And he said, "I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." Isaiah 14:14. Despite his fall, Satan continues to feed his false belief in his superiority, the greatest obstacle to his redemption. Why settle for what was given to me when I can take it all? This universe, this creation, all of it belongs to me. And when everything is under my dominion, I will be the true king. For the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. Satan's insatiable desire to control everything is like a lion, always seeking whom to destroy. The story of Satan warns us about the dangers of pride, unchecked ambition, and the desire for limitless power. His fall was not only the result of a rebellion, but also his refusal to recognize that true greatness does not lie in supremacy, but in humility and obedience to God. Human beings often fall into the same trap. We seek recognition, power, or personal satisfaction without realizing that by distancing ourselves from God, we only find emptiness and despair. The story of Satan is a reminder that the path of arrogance and self-sufficiency only leads to spiritual ruin. Therefore, the most important lesson is to remember the first commandment of God. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Deuteronomy 6:5. When we put God at the center of our lives, we find purpose, peace, and fulfillment. Only in Him is the true light that dispels all darkness.